On Long Island, far from the crowded lights of Manhattan, a strange tower rose above the fields. It was not a church. It was not a factory. It was not a monument built for a dead king, and yet it carried something of all three. Its wooden frame stood high against the sky, crowned by a great dome of metal and rooted in the earth by buried iron. To anyone passing nearby, it looked unfinished, a skeleton of some future age erected too early. But to Nikola Tesla, the tower was not a ruin waiting to happen. It was a beginning. He called the place Wardenclyffe. Others saw timber, copper, machinery, money, risk. Tesla saw something deeper, a point of contact, a place where Earth's hidden forces could be awakened to carry power without wires. Not through cables stretched from pole to pole like chains over the modern world, but through the planet itself. The Earth, to Tesla, was not dead matter beneath our feet. It was an instrument, a vast body of resonance, a silent sphere waiting for the right mind, the right frequency, the right command. The tower was built to touch that silence. The world could understand lamps, motors, and electricity when it lit a street, turned a wheel, and served the hunger of cities. But Wardenclyffe belonged to another Tesla. Not the safe Tesla of textbooks. Not only the inventor of alternating current. Not only the man whose machines helped carry electricity into the modern age. This was the Tesla who did not want merely to improve the world that existed. He wanted to reveal the world underneath it. And so the tower rose, alone in the fields, a dark machine beneath an open sky, a temple for the electrical age. For a moment, it seemed as if the future had taken physical form. Then the money began to vanish. The promises weakened. The world stepped back from the dream. And the tower, built to awaken the earth, was left standing like a warning. Some visions do not fail because they are small. They fail because they are too large for the century that receives them. But before Wardenclyffe became a ruin, before the world kept the Tesla it could use, and forgot the Tesla it feared, there was a child who had already been touched by light. Nikola Tesla was born far from the towers, wires, and electric cities that would one day carry his name. He came into the world in the village of Smiljan, in a land of mountains, churches, storms, and old darkness. His father was a priest. His mother did not read the great books of science, but her hands understood invention. She made tools, remembered long passages, and solved problems with an instinct that needed no laboratory. From her, Tesla inherited something no school could give him, a mind that did not merely think, a mind that formed. But the force that marked him most deeply did not arrive as education. It came as light. As a child, Tesla was visited by flashes so intense that they broke across his vision and filled the world before him. Images appeared with a violence ordinary memory could not explain. A word, a thought, a name, a place, and suddenly the thing itself would rise before his inner sight, with such force that it seemed almost physical. The invisible did not stay obediently inside him. It crossed into the visible. At times, the images were so clear that the outer world weakened. Other children learned to separate imagination from reality. Tesla had to survive where the two touched. It was not gentle. It frightened him, seized him, and opened chambers in the mind before he knew control. Before Tesla studied electricity, he was already being trained by a power that behaved like electricity. Sudden, invisible, violent, illuminating. The flashes tormented him, but they also prepared him. They taught him that an image could possess force before it possessed matter. They taught him that something unseen could strike first, and only later become visible. This became the secret rhythm of his life. First, the invisible, then, the machine. Tesla did not invent the way ordinary men invented. He did not begin with a table covered in parts, broken models, failed mechanisms, and metal corrected by metal. He did not need the machine to stand before him, before he could know whether it would live. The machine came first inside. There, in the hidden chamber of the mind, it appeared with a clarity other men expected only from matter. He could see it, turn it, change it, let it run, and hear its failure before it was built. To Tesla, the inner image was not fantasy. It was a workshop, a laboratory without walls, a place where invisible forms were tested before they were lowered into the visible world. The light that had tormented the child became the instrument of the man. One of the greatest revelations of his life came not in a laboratory, but in a moment of sudden inner vision. He had been searching for a motor that could use alternating current, a living force capable of turning wheels, driving machines. and carrying power into the new age. The problem followed him through exhaustion and obsession. Then, one evening, while walking with a friend, the answer opened. Tesla saw it, not as a calculation slowly completed, not as a diagram assembled piece by piece. He saw the rotating magnetic field, the invisible wheel, the motion behind the machine. In that moment, the motor existed before it existed. The form had crossed from the unseen into the mind, and Tesla understood that a new kind of power had found its body. This was not merely an invention, it was a revelation of movement. A force with no visible hands could turn metal. A field that could not be touched could create rotation. The empty space inside a machine was not empty. It could be ordered. It could be made to move. It could become the true engine. The modern world would call this engineering, and it was engineering. But in Tesla's mind, engineering had never been separated from mystery. A machine was not a dead arrangement of parts. It was a place where invisible law became visible action. He did not worship machines. He listened through them. Electricity became the perfect language for a man shaped by unseen powers. It was presence without flesh. It crossed distance, filled darkness, entered a wire, and emerged as light, heat, sound, motion, command. It could not be seen directly, and yet it could remake the world. The motor, the coil, the currents, the strange arcs of light. These were not isolated achievements, they were openings. The world was deeper than its surface. The unseen was not absence, it was the source. Tesla's machines were not born from a dead universe. They came from a world alive with force. To him, nature was a vast system of pressures, currents, vibrations, and invisible commands. Man was not sealed inside the skull, but open to the cosmos, a living receiver in the wheelwork of the universe. Everything touched everything else through unseen relation. Matter itself was already mysterious. It was not final, but a visible shape called out of deeper motion. Behind the object stood energy. Behind energy, rhythm. Behind rhythm, a primal order named in older languages. Not the cold universe of dead particles. Creation itself as vibration. Tesla became Tesla because he did not close himself against the invisible. He let it strike him, disturb him, teach him, and finally pass through him into the world as invention. Other men used nature. Tesla listened. Other men built upward from matter. Tesla descended from vision into matter. The world first welcomed the Tesla it could understand. This was the Tesla of power stations, motors, lamps, and wires. The Tesla whose alternating current could travel farther, serve cities, feed industry, and carry light into places where darkness had once ruled with ordinary authority. This Tesla was useful. This Tesla could be patented, financed, bought, sold, and installed. Electricity began to move through the world like a new nervous system. Streets brightened, machines turned, distance changed, night itself became less absolute. To others, this was progress. To Tesla, it was only the first opening. He had not brought electricity into the world so that it could remain trapped in wires. Wires were useful, but they were also primitive. They were the visible crutch of a civilization that had not yet learned how deeply the invisible could travel. If power could move through copper, why not through air? If a signal could cross a room, why not a continent? If the earth itself was alive with conductivity, resonance, and hidden motion, why should humanity crawl forward on cables? The question pulled him west. In Colorado Springs, Tesla entered a landscape wide enough for the scale of his obsession. Beneath an enormous sky, he built a laboratory unlike any ordinary workshop, a chamber raised for contact. At night, mountains stood dark around him. Storms moved over the plains. The air itself seemed charged, thin, waiting. Inside the laboratory, coils rose like instruments of invocation. Transformers hummed. Sparks tore through the darkness. Artificial lightning leapt in violent white branches, filling the room with a light that seemed less manufactured than summoned. Tesla stood inside that storm of his own making, not as a frightened witness, not as a magician performing for applause, but as a man returning the language of nature back to nature. The lightning outside and the lightning inside were no longer separate. One had come from the sky, one had come through the mind, the machine, the coil, the hidden law. Both belonged to the same invisible order. In Colorado Springs, Tesla did not look like an engineer testing equipment. He looked like a man negotiating with lightning. The discharges cracked through the laboratory like messages to Bright for speech. The machines answered his adjustments. The earth answered the machines. The air became a medium. Darkness became visible under pressure. And Tesla listened. He was not only trying to send power, he was trying to hear. His instruments caught disturbances, pulses, strange signals passing through the atmosphere. To another man, they might have been noise. To Tesla, noise was never only noise. The universe was filled with motion. A signal was a footprint. A vibration was a trace. He had spent his life receiving images from the invisible interior of the mind. Now he built machines to receive from the invisible exterior of the cosmos. In that charged darkness, he felt something beyond the planet touch the instruments, something remote, moving through the void with enough order to be noticed. It did not terrify him. It confirmed the world he already knew. The earth was not silent. The heavens were not empty. The invisible was speaking, and the right instrument could hear it. Colorado Springs gave him more than experiments. It gave him proof in the language he trusted most, force responding to force, resonance answering resonance, the earth behaving not as dead ground, but as part of a circuit. From that point, the old dream became too small. To light cities was not enough. To drive motors was not enough. To defeat distance by wire was not enough. Tesla wanted a system vast enough to match the invisible order he had touched. Stations across the world like nodes in a planetary body. Power and communication moving through the earth itself. This was no longer invention in the ordinary sense. It was architecture for an unseen world. And for that architecture, he needed a tower that would rise from the ground like a command. A tower that would reach downward as much as upward. A tower that would not merely send, but awaken. Wardenclyffe was not built like a small invention. It was built like a claim upon the future. On the surface, it was a wireless station, the name the age could understand. But Tesla's vision did not stop at messages. Messages were only the beginning. The deeper dream was power. Power moving without wires. Power moving through the earth itself. Power no longer chained to copper, poles, cables, meters, and the slow visible machinery of ownership. Above ground, the tower reached toward the sky. Below ground, it reached into the earth. That mattered. Tesla was not trying to escape the earth. He was trying to awaken it. In his mind, the tower was one node in a future network. Stations across the globe tuned to the same invisible law, sending energy and information through a medium older than civilization. The earth would carry the message. The earth would carry the current. The earth would become the machine. This was the part that made Tesla dangerous. A useful inventor improves the systems that already exist. Tesla threatened to pass beneath them. A wire can be owned. A station can be guarded. A meter can count. A bill can be sent. But what happens when power is imagined as something drawn through the living body of the planet? What happens when the medium is everywhere? The men who financed the modern age believed in invention when it entered ledgers, cities, companies, and contracts. But Wardenclyffe asked for a different kind of belief, a future not yet profitable, a world not merely improved, but remade. Wardenclyffe was not a device. It was the first stone of a new world. The money slowed, patience thinned, promises weakened. The world wanted results it could display, announce, and monetize. Tesla watched the future narrow. He had seen a world without wires. The world asked for a better telegraph. He had imagined the earth as an instrument. The world asked where the profit would enter. He had built a tower for invisible abundance. The world began counting the cost of timber and steel. That is how great visions are often wounded. Not always by enemies, not always by ridicule, sometimes by the small, persistent hands of ordinary calculation. Wardenclyffe stood unfinished, but it did not become meaningless. A completed machine belongs to history. A failed vision belongs to legend. The tower became the shape of everything Tesla had tried to bring through. The flashes of childhood, the machines born in the mind before metal, the cosmic signals, the lightning of Colorado Springs, and the belief that the earth itself could be tuned like an instrument. All of it stood there. Wood, metal, silence, expectation. The tower waited for a world brave enough to become conductive, but the world stepped back, and Tesla was left facing the cruelest truth given to visionaries. Seeing the future is not the same as being allowed to build it. After Wardenclyffe, the world did not become dark again. That was the cruelty. The light stayed on. Cities continued to glow. Motors continued to turn. The electrical world Tesla had helped awaken did not vanish when his dream collapsed. It grew, but it grew without him. The safe Tesla remained everywhere. In wires, in systems, in machines. The dangerous Tesla withdrew into rooms. The man who had once stood before lightning now stood before debts, refusals, and closed doors. The man who had imagined power moving through the earth now moved from hotel to hotel, carrying visions too large for patrons, too strange for newspapers, too difficult for the practical world to love. He did not stop seeing. That was the burden. Some men are abandoned by their dreams. Tesla was not. A man who had thought in planetary circuits was confined to rented rooms. A man who had wanted to electrify the earth-fed pigeons in the streets of New York. That image is easy to mock. It should not be mocked. Among them, one white pigeon became more than an animal to him. A small living light in the rooms of a man who had once tried to illuminate the planet. When she died, something in him closed. The world had not understood Wardenclyffe. It had not understood the flashes. It had not understood the machines born in the hidden theater of his mind. It had not understood why electricity, to him, was never only electricity. The world wanted Tesla useful. It wanted the inventions without the vision, the current without the cosmology, the motors without the mystery. But Tesla could not be divided so cleanly. The same man who gave the world practical power also opened himself to images, signals, vibrations, and cosmic order. The same inventor who helped build the electrical age tried to turn the earth into a medium. History kept the part it could install. The rest became rumor. But rumor is not always failure. Sometimes it is the form a forbidden memory takes when the official record has no room for it. Tesla died alone in New York. No tower answered. The wires remained. The meters remained. The ordinary electrical age moved forward, bright and obedient. Yet the question did not die with him. It moved beneath the century, like a current beneath the skin. What if Wardenclyffe was not merely a failed invention, but the ruin of a threshold? A place where one man tried to bring the invisible architecture of the universe into wood, iron, copper, and earth. Before the century turned away, the tower fell. The wires remained. The world remembers Tesla as an inventor, but that was only the safe version. The deeper Tesla was something more unsettling. A man struck by light, caught by invisible forces, and driven to build machines for a reality most people could not yet hear. His tower was broken. His current was not. And perhaps every time the modern world glows in the dark, it is still living inside the first layer of his vision, while the deeper one waits beneath our feet, silent, unfinished, and not yet awakened.